Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So thank you for stopping by today, and if this is your first time of coming across this channel, it's centered around sewing and I make sewing videos and pattern drafting. So you're highly welcome and thank you very much for stopping by. So in today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you guys how to make this reversible peplum blouse with a 720 degrees flare. So what you need taking with this blouse is that it can be worn at both sides. So you can see that one piece or one side of it, I use a multicolored Ankara fabric, and for this other side that is brown with blue and red and white prints, I used 1.5 yards as well. So if you'd like to know how I got to achieve this, continue watching and do not skip any part of this video, and please do subscribe if you're yet to subscribe, because you're not going to regret it. So I'll just get started So I've gone ahead to draft a half scale basic bodice behind the camera. I already have a detailed tutorial on how to do this in case you don't know how to go about this. So I'm just going ahead now to label all these lines if you are still new to this. And for my neckline, I actually came down by 1.5 inches, and for the neck width I marked 3 inches. So here is 16 inches, which is my half scale basic bodice. And do remember that this blouse actually has a rope, so the rope I'll be making use of here will be 2 inches, meaning that I'm going to subtract just 2 inches from this my half scale basic bodice, and the 2 inches I'm going to subtract is going to be the height of my rope or my belt, as you may call it. So this is where my 2 inches fall, and I'm going to go ahead now to cut this out. So 2 subtracted from 16 is actually 14 inches. So as I cut out these 2 inches right here, I'm going to have 14 inches all together. So the next thing is to come to the shoulder area, and from that point I'm just going to come in this way by 1 inch, and I'm just going to make a point right there. So you can see what I did there, right? So after that, now I'm going to come to the base of this my top, and I'm going to divide my bust span or your nipple to nipple measurement into 2, and mine is 3.5, and I went ahead to mark it there. Or you can divide your waist circumference by 8, and whatever you have, you mark it there, but believe me, that is going to be the same thing. So I'll go ahead now and connect that point I made from my shoulder line all the way to the hem of this piece of paper I have right here. So my marker was actually faint. I had to change this to make this more visible. So this is it, and after connecting this way, I'll just go ahead and use my scissors to cut this out exactly on the same line which I marked from the top to the bottom area. So I'll go ahead now and also cut out for the neckline. So this neckline I used here is for the neckline depth for the back, which is 1.5 inches, but the front neckline is actually going to be deeper than this. So of course I have this paper folded into 2, and I'm going to open this up, and this is exactly what it should look like. So the next I'll go ahead now to draft for the flare part of this blouse. So you all know that this is my half scale basic bodice of 16 inches, and I subtracted 2 inches from it. Now I have 14 inches left, and I'm working with a blouse length of 21 inches. This means that we are going to subtract 16 from 21 inches, and what I'll have left is worth 5 inches. So it means that the flare I'm going to cut out now is going to be 5 inches long. So it all depends on your length of flare or your preference. You can decide to cut a longer flare than mine. So this is how you spread your paper, and firstly you go ahead to fold into 2 just like this. So after folding, you go ahead and fold again. So a full 360 degrees flare always has 8 pieces after folding. So a lot of people make this mistake of having only just 6 pieces, which is not right. So counting this now, you can see is 4. So I folded, and this is a normal 180 degrees flare. So to get a full 360 degrees flare, I have to fold this for the last time. But before that, I'll be teaching you how to calculate this flare. I already have a tutorial on that, but I'll be giving a brief explanation. So to get a higher degree of flare, you are going to add whichever flare you are cutting for into 2. So 360 degrees plus 360 degrees is 720 degrees, and so we are cutting out 2 pieces of this flare. Okay, so That is just simply it, and it's going to be 8 pieces. That was a little explanation I was giving here. So we are cutting out 2 pieces of 360 degrees flay. Just take note of that. So I'm refolding this again for you all to understand what I mean, and you can see that that part is closed, and I'm just going to fold this again like this for the very last time. And this is the full 360 degrees flay, and this is exactly how it should look like. So because you are going to cut out 2 pieces of this 360 degrees flay, firstly I'll go ahead and count this, and you can see that I have 8 pieces here on fold. So please do go ahead and count yours as well to get a very full 360 degrees flay. So because we are cutting out 2 pieces of a 360 degrees flay, we are going to be dividing from that top part into 2. We are going to mark 2. If it was 1 piece, I'm actually going to divide by 4 to get our waist measurement, but because we are cutting out 2 pieces of 360 degrees flay to make it 720 degrees flay, I will go ahead and mark 2 inches, which will be for my waistline. So now I'm marking the length of my flare. So it's 5 inches, and I went ahead to add extra 1 inch, which will serve as joining allowance for both the top and the bottom area, which is the hem of my dress. So I hope you understand what I did right here and my explanations. Please, if you don't, just watch carefully all I've been doing here, and definitely you are going to understand. Okay, so I've gone ahead now to mark both my length of my flare and also the waist circumference, and this all depends on where you are attaching or fixing your flare. So I'll go ahead now and cut this out, and this is what I have right here. So this is going to give me a full 360 degrees flare. So the next thing I'll go ahead now to do is to cut all of these drafted pieces on my actual fabric. So here is for the back. I'm going to cut out for the back first because I want to use this neckline to cut out for the back before I'll proceed to also create a deeper neckline for the front. So for the base of this piece of paper or my pattern paper, I'm going to leave half of an inch, which will serve as joining allowance, and also at the sides. But at the neckline area and at the shoulder area, I am not going to add anything that looks like stitching or joining or seam allowance. So this is what it looks like for the back piece. And now I'll go ahead now to draft out for the front piece. So I went ahead to also fold my fabric into 2, and I'm going to bring my drafted basic bodies, and the next thing I'm going to do first is to increase my neck depth. So I'm going to also add stitching allowance, but you're going to see it all by yourself as I'm doing this. So I'll come down by 1.5 inch plus the 1.5 inch which I came down by already for the back neckline. So altogether I have 3 inches. So I'm just going to connect like this from my shoulder into the new neck depth which I've created here. So I'll go ahead now and cut this out. So having cut this out now, you will see that I am not placing this my drafted busy bodies from the edge of my fabric. I actually gave a space because at the hemming, at the base and at the side, at the 2 sides, I'm actually going to give this half of an inch, which is going to be for my joining or my seam allowance. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do, and cut out every other part the same way. So I'm going to open this and spread this out so you have a proper view of what I did right here. So you can see this, and the next thing I'm going to do is to cut this exact same piece out on my other fabric. So I'm just going to use the back of this already drafted piece to draft out for the other fabric. So I've gone ahead to do this, and I also went ahead to iron this properly, and you can see how nicely it's already looking together with my flare. So this is just it, and I'll open this up and you see what my flare looks, and see how full it looks. So the next thing is that I'll be ironing my hairstay to this other multicolored fabric. I'll not be ironing to this brown fabric because the brown fabric I have with me is already very thick. So here I'll start by spreading out my flare, and I'm going to place my hairstay on it this way. And this hairstay, the rough edge should be the part that should be on your fabric. Okay, so the smooth part should not be on the fabric. The rough part is actually the part that gums. So after ironing, I went ahead to cut out the hairstay that is at the middle of this my flare. So I'll iron it as well to the body of this my blouse, and that will just be it. And this is what I have. So I'll proceed now with the joining. So I'm going to bring the front and the back piece together, and I'm going to join individually at the shoulder. So the both piece, I'll first of all pin this down, and I'm going to join at the shoulder area. So I'll do this for these two pieces I have right here with me. I'll pin them down at the shoulder area before I'll proceed to my sewing machine to stitch this down. So after stitching, I'll go ahead and iron open the shoulder which I just joined, so that it becomes very flat. So I'm going to fix this right sides facing each other. That's my two piece. I'm going to bring these two pieces of fabric together, right sides facing each other. I'm going to make sure that all the parts align properly, and I'll go ahead now to also pin down all of these sides from the neck area to the sides and to the front part respectively. So after this, I'll go ahead again to iron flat so I don't encounter any issues, so that it will be easy, very easy for me to stitch. So I'm going to stitch all of these parts, the sides, the neck, excluding the base. So the base, we're not going to touch it. These places I'm showing you now will not be sewed, because I'm turning out to the right side from the base of this dress. Okay, so I'll go ahead now and notch all of these parts after stitching. So I'll go ahead now from the base. You can see I pass my hand through that base, and I'm going to make sure that I flip this over to the right side of my fabric. So having done this, you can see what I have, and you can see that one part of the fabric did not interfere with the other side of the fabric. So iron this flat, and that will be it. So the next thing is to cut out the rope or the belt. So I advise that you cut out a long piece of rope that is twice the size of your waist circumference. So my waist circumference is 30 inches. I made sure that I cut a long piece of 60 inches. So for the wideness, I went ahead to mark 3 inches. Reason is that I'll be using half inch to join at both sides, and after joining, I'm going to be left with 2 inches. So this is it, and I went ahead to cut this out. And after cutting this out, I'm just going to trim off this rough edge. So I took the measurements before ironing my hairstay to this piece. So I'll go ahead and also use this long piece to cut out from my other actual Ankara piece. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to open up this my flare, because at this point we are going to join just like I said earlier on, because it's a 720 degrees flare. So opening these two flare pieces of flare I have here, I'm going to join both sides together. Just watch carefully and see how I will join this. But firstly, I'm going to be using my pin to pin this down first. Pinning, I'll go ahead and stitch this. So I'll repeat this also for the other piece of my flare that I have right here. So you can see, and I want to teach you guys a simple trick here. I'm going to take the measurement of this my waist circumference, and if yours did not get up to your waist circumference, the only thing you are going to do is that you are going to fold this back again, just like I'm doing right here, and you're going to measure like 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 of an inch, and you're going to cut it out. Just this you follow the same shape, okay? So but if you are to follow exactly what I taught you right here, there is no way it's not going to align with your actual waist circumference. I hope you understand what I mean. So but in case maybe you made a mistake or something, the more you cut your flare, the more wider it's going to be. Okay, so having explained that, now I'll go ahead to bring these two pieces right sides facing each other, and I'll go ahead now to pin this down. So the base of this flare I'm going to pin down from beginning to the end. So after doing this, now I'm going to use the 1/2 inch which I gave this for my seam allowance to stitch all around. But before that, now I'm going to give this a slight curve at the front area, because that is how it's meant to be. So I'll just bring the two open parts together, and I'll go ahead now and mark 3 inches inwardly, just like this. I'm just going to make a freehand curve, and please do not tamper with the waist area. So the curve should end before the waist area, because if you are to remove even if it's 1/4 inch from the waist, you're going to tamper with your waist circumference. So you can see that I went ahead to give this a curve that will fit it or make it finer. Okay, so after that, now I'll just go ahead now and stitch the both sides and also the base of this flare. So you see what I have here, right? So after stitching right here, I'll just come and show you, and this is what I have. So I'll go ahead and flip this to the right side, and after flipping this, I'll go ahead and give this a very nice press. I'll iron all of this area, so you can see that our flare is already standing out at this point. So here is the long piece, rope or belt, whatever it is you can call it, and I'm going to go ahead now to bring this my two flare together. I'm going to mark the middle point of this my flare. I'm going to nudge it, and I'll spread this open. I'll also do the same for this my piece. I'll bring it together, and I'll go ahead as well to also nudge the midpoint. So this rope or belt will be placed exactly on the fabric it matches with. Okay, so after nudging the midpoint, I'll go ahead now and also do it for the other Ankara piece I have, and I'm going to pin those two nudges together. I'll make sure that they are facing each other right sides, and I'll pin this down, and also repeat the same procedure for the other Ankara piece. So I'm just coming down to explain all of this, because if I'm to rush this, a lot of us might not really understand, because this dress is simple but a bit tricky if you are not careful enough. So this is it, and I'll continue pinning all the way to the two ends of this my belt or my rope. So continue pinning even when you get to the end of this rope. Continue pinning and also join the sides as well. So you can see after pinning, you're going to go ahead and stitch the sides and the pin parts. So after that, now you can see what I have. I'm cutting off the little excesses I have here, and I'm going to turn this over to the right side of my fabric. So after turning this to the right side, I'll go ahead now and iron this down. So if you watch closely, none of these fabrics is interfering with the other. They are all standing alone. That's why I said pay attention, proper attention to this. So after that, now I'm going to fold in the 1/2 inch extra which is left. I'm going to fold this in, and after folding in, I'll make sure I'll go ahead to iron. So you can see how nice this is looking. Very beautiful already. So after this, now I'll go ahead and also bring these two pieces together. I'll take note of the midpoint, because we are now trying to join our upper dress to this flare. So I'll just get my upper dress and also fold into two, and also make sure I get the midpoint and nudge it as well. So after nudging, I'm just going to make sure I put in only half of an inch, and I'll make sure that that notched part on my blouse, or the upper part of my dress, aligns with the chalk, which you can see clearly I marked right there. So when you must have aligned and properly placed, I will use my pin and hold this down so it doesn't move while I'm stitching on my sewing machine. So I'm going to pin the both parts together. So here is simply it, and I'll flip it to the other side, and I'm going to start pinning from exactly where the flare stopped. So I'm just going to put only half of an inch inside. It shouldn't be more than half of an inch, because that was actually the only seam allowance given to this dress. So I'm going to pin it, and at both sides I'll secure this with my pin. So I'll also do the same for the other side of this my dress. So just take your time and do all of this, and always remember to work with your pin. So after that, go ahead now and stitch the last part that was pinned, and that's just the thing, and this cloth is ready. So here is the outcome of this dress. It can be worn both sides. That's one unique thing I love about this dress. Thank you for watching. If you've come this extent or this far watching me and you're yet to subscribe, I wonder what you're waiting for. There is no regrets here, no regret zone. Please just consider subscribing to my channel, and I'm going to see you next time on this same channel. Please also follow me on my newly created Instagram page, where I post all these dresses which I'll be making henceforth. Thank you and love you. Bye.